Welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk right here on the Rock Rage Radio Network. 600 plus interviews. That's the first time I blew an intro. So there you go. I have Mr. James Christian, and he is the guy that gets to hold that against me and hold me accountable. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. I do make people nervous, so I understand.
Well, yeah, the golden voice. I can
No.
understand too. It's funny because back when I'm a drummer myself, and back when I was in high school, we are always trying to find a James Christian type singer, and they don't exist up here in Canada. What's your background? I mean, how did you get that gravelly? There's been comparisons to different sorts of people, but where would you peg yourself in terms of a vocalist?
Well, I had started out listening mostly to Beatles in the early days, which kind of really, shows where my age is at. But right around the same time, Led Zeppelin in 1969, I believe, released their first record, and that kind of changed my whole outlook on what being a singer was. I no longer wanted to be Lennon and McCartney. I wanted to be Robert Plant. Eventually, through the years, I said, well, it's time to develop your own style. But the idea and the approach was always to try to capture the emotion of a Robert Plant, what he did. I always looked to him when I thought of something that I was going to do original. So it became something that over the years I developed into, and I really didn't hit where I wanted to be until I joined House of Lords, to be honest. Prior to that, I was in cover bands, so I had no idea who I wanted to be. One day one song I was Journey, next song I was Styx or whatever the song required, that's what I did. But when I signed up with House of Lords and started doing that album, the first album, Andy Johns had been the producer. It's very intimidating because I knew who he was. We did Led Zeppelin, him and his brother. So I thought, this is going to be incredible. But what do I do? As far as here are the songs. I know what they sound like, and Andy he just said, just open your mouth and sing. You can sing these songs. And basically, what I did was just let it go and not think about who it had to sound like, what the song was supposed to sound like. My voice just came out a little bit more raspier than I envisioned it to be. And when I heard it on a great mic, that's what actually brought out all the little nuances of the voice. So I said, okay, this is where it is. Now I know.
So, obviously a different time when you were kind of got into, you said you were in a cover band, then you got this great gig in House of Lords. And today it just seems like everybody seems to, they're doing things on social media, and they've got they're digital creators as opposed to two musicians. What do you remember at the time of kind of being, I don't want to say plucked out of obscurity, but a guy that was kind of doing in a cover band to a major? What do you remember about that, and what would you tell somebody today that why it's so different from today than it is to today?
Well, when I started, I had to make the decision to leave Connecticut, which was a very difficult decision because all my friends were there, my bandmates were there, and I was the big fish, So I had people that knew me in Connecticut. Connecticut's really small, so you could carpet the place. But it was, to me, I knew I needed to go to California, so I got a lot of phone calls from one woman, Judith Randall. I'm trying to remember how everything came about. And Judith Randall worked with Marcy Free, who was Mark Free back then. Right. And she had asked me if I would do a couple of songs for her, come out there and do a couple of songs. I said, sure. So I went out and did 2 songs. I stayed with Lawrence Juba, who was the guitar player for Paul McCartney and Wings. So like all of this started getting a little freaky to me. I'm going, okay, this is really amazing. I'm seeing all these different people that, I know, but, to think I'd be living in his guest house while I do demos for Judith Randall. That's what started the ball rolling. From Judith Randall came another gentleman, Jeff Silverman, who was a partner writer with Rick Springfield. Rick Springfield heard my voice and wanted me to sing on a song of his called what was it? Right Planet, Wrong World. So I did that vocal for him, and I did another vocal for him. From there, a band called Eyes, which, by the way, sorry, I just lost one of my earphones, but I can still hear you. It really wasn't Eyes. It was another name. LA Rocks was the name of the band. And they were out there they wanted to do showcases, and they had a singer, Jeff Scott Soto, who was their singer. So they wanted to replace the singer, and I went in and auditioned for that position, and I got that. I did like 5 demos with them. While I was doing those demos, we were doing showcases, and one of the guys was Chuck Wright. I never got to meet him because they were only rehearsing with the band at that time. But Judith told me I needed to send a tape to Chuck Wright. So I did better than that. She gave me his address. I dropped the tape off to Chuck Wright, and I never heard back from anyone. So I thought, well, that's, and it was actually to be a replacement singer for Quiet Riot. They were looking for a singer at the time. So about 6 months later, while I'm back in Connecticut, I get a call, and they asked me out again to go to LA and audition for House of Lords. I didn't know, who House of Lords was, but I did know the members, but didn't know it was going to be a cattle call. I mean, every singer was out there doing this audition, sorry. So I didn't think much of it. And then I got another call and another. And then the last call I got was from Greg Giuffria, who asked me to come to his home, sing a few songs right there while he played piano. That worked out great. And then Gene Simmons was the last call. And I didn't have to sing for Gene Simmons. All he had to do was ask a little bit about me. And it was another guy that was also in the line for the position. So I guess I was just at the right place at the right time. And it was the way it was done back there, which was making contacts, meeting people. There wasn't instant, here's my MP3. We were doing it with cassettes back then. So it's a lot easier today to get your voice out there.
Here's the thing, James, though, that I talk about this a lot on this show about networking, and a lot of people go, oh, here he goes about networking again. But it's the whole 6 degrees of separation, where you might not know the person right in front of you, but 2 or 3 people behind them, and the next thing you know, they're coming back and referring you or giving you a good reference because they know of you. And it's neat to hear the fact that really you were creating a network, and your network was working with you back in the 80s.
It absolutely was. And again, I thank Judith Randall. She's no longer with us, but her daughter, Robin Randall, still is. And once in a while, and a blue moon, we do things together. Once House of Lords took off, a lot of the people that helped me, I tried to help back as much as I could, because they did a lot for me to get me set up. I was from New York City, coming out to LA, and there is culture shock. There really is. How right. You're, meeting a person from LA as a person from New York, big difference. But the most important part was that I was going to the right places, and I was doing the right things, and basically it all fell into place. I mean, LA Rocks was the band that brought me out there. They offered me, I think it was $25,000 after they found out I was going to get the gig with House of Lords, and I had to turn them down. I said, well, that's a lot of money for me at that time. It was like, forget it. But I turned that down because I said House of Lords is what it's meant to do here. So Gene Simmons really was a saving grace for me. I owe everything to him, because while I was with him, he knew that I was green as can be. Again, just being a club guy. So he literally flew me cross country doing interviews, and was there with me. Like from Canada, we went to a place, believe it or not, called the House of Lords. and did I don't know if it was a restaurant or a beauty salon, but I do know it was one of the two. He took me to some other places where Gene was doing speeches or interviews, and then he would bring me in. So I learned a lot from him, and he did spend a lot of time with me. Even in the studio, he was in my booth a couple of times, which was kind of unnerving, but because I'm thinking to myself, he's hearing me. He's here,
Right.
not hearing the music. He's just hearing my voice. But it worked out well.
Well, and I do remember because I was a Jafria fan as well. And then when they made the vocal change for the House of Lords, and I remember the press with Gene about him saying he didn't like that particular singer's voice, and you came in. I do remember the high praise that he gave you. And that place that you're talking about was actually, there was a hair salon in Toronto that had the same name. So I don't know if that's where it was, but
That was what it was.
and a friend of mine used to run it. So that there you go. There's our 6 degrees of
Yep.
separation again, James.
And then you should ask him if he remembers us coming in. I thought to myself, wow, that was weird. Because I thought it was either a restaurant or a salon.
No, it was a salon in Yonge Street. I wanna tackle the new album because I've had a chance to hear some of it. But before I do that, I everybody that I have the opportunity to talk to that was part of that genre of the music that I love. I always like to ask, why do you think there was a little lull, obviously with the '90s and stuff, but the music seems to be as prevalent, if not more so, now than it's ever been. And what do you attest that to?
Well, I think it's because everything comes around. Whatever goes around comes around again and becomes popular. There is an uptick in the melodic sound, but I wish it was bigger because it's not at the magnitude it was when I was doing the first two albums of House of Lords. The third album I'll get to a little later, but the first two, it was gigantic because it was limousines, five-star hotels, you name it. We playing with Scorpions, playing with Ozzy. This all was so new to me, and that's what I remember as being the most incredible part of being a musician, was being able to perform it in front of that many people. That lull in the middle was to me a heartbreak because I just got started. 3 albums we were just ready to hit, with the third, which was projected to take us over the top, and probably would have if it wasn't for the grunge and the way things happen, progression, everything progresses, and music changed on a dime. Radio stations weren't playing melodic anymore. They were playing Nirvana, they were playing Pearl Jam, they were playing bands that were doing more of that type of music. So we were out for about 9 years, I would say. That's a long time.
It is. And I remember, all those bands were getting signed in Seattle, and they couldn't find any more, so they came up to where I live, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and started signing bands up here.
Well, the thing is, they were signing for $35,000 an album. We were making $350,000 an album. You see, the difference is the record companies realized we could sign 20 or 30 bands on the budget of one band, throw it against the wall and see what happens. And there was good things that came out of the grunge era. I can appreciate it now. I didn't appreciate it then. And it's a weird thing. I guess maybe it was a jealousy thing, like why that and not this, But you have to realize that's the market change. People grew up, the teenagers became a little bit older, and a whole new generation came in.
Absolutely. So this new record, so out on Frontier, it's coming out on Frontier. What I heard kind of has that classic, House of Lords sound, maybe with the, I don't want to say new age, or refreshed, but it still has that sound. Talk about this record, because it's, Frontier keeps kicking out this wicked music, and talk about what people can expect to hear.
Well, for me, I think people are going to probably hear the best record we have done. I've said, with many of our records that it was my favorite, but this truly is my favorite, along with the first 3 records that we did. Something about how this album was put together and what I was going through my life, some changes that happened in me that gave me a perspective of I just want to do this record as hard as I can and give it as much as I can. That came through in the vocals, and I realized that it did. I mean, even though there were days I couldn't do what I wanted to do because I wasn't feeling that well.
Right.
And but I got through it. I got through it on the good days, and I just poured my heart out so much that I listened back and I went, "Is this, this is pretty good, And for me to compliment myself is hard because I'm biggest critic of what I do vocally. But when it was done and Dennis Ward mixed it, I went, "This is tremendous." I said every song from top to bottom, not only lyrically, because there were a lot of different lyric content in it. And there's also one that's reaching out of, it's a ballad and it's about, not wanting to not be here. And it's called I Don't Want to Say Goodbye. So there's so many things on that record that hits home. One was for multiple personalities, crowded room. I've never done a record like that or a lyric like that. When I wrote it, I don't know anything about multiple personalities. I'm pretty sure I have one in my head at all times.
Right.
But I can imagine what that could be like. And so that's what that song was written about. Not the Enemy was a Mark Mangold song, but I first heard it and I thought it was an anti-war song or a war song. And I'm not sure I want to do that. Too political. He goes, no, read the lyric, And so I looked at it and, oh God, it's a love song. But it's saying, the girl is saying, that she can't trust him. You're doing me wrong, whatever, but I'm not the enemy. So when I got that message across, that I knew what to do with the song vocally. Full Tilt Overdrive and Come to Go through them in my head, not in the order of the album. Full Tilt Overdrive was just a complete monster in my mind. I had written it one way and I had a title for it. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. I loved the music. Jimmy gave us a track that just, it was kick-ass from top to bottom, and it deserved to be a big song on the record. And so Mark came up with a couple of ideas and in the verses, changed my verses. And it just came together from that point on. I have to credit Mark Mangold on it. He nailed it. And Full Tilt Overdrive, the title, is just about, it's about speed, but about a pinball machine and relating a pinball machine to a sexy woman. All of it makes sense when you listen to the lyric. But again, one of my favorite tracks, and I hope they get a chance to do that one live because I know it will be a monster.
Well, it's like you and I rehearsed this because my next question was going to be plans to take this show on the road, if you will. I mean, it seems like, the things like the Monsters of Rock cruises and the festivals that are going on in Rocklahoma, it seems like there's an awful lot of opportunities for what you guys do to get out there in front of people. Is that the plan, to take it out and tour it a little bit?
Yes, sir. I mean, the plan is for, just recently we had to cancel the show, and I caught a lot of flack for it on my Facebook page because it was, very close to the date. It was a show in Wales, England, and I had to cancel it. And I explained myself because I had to. I mean, I didn't want people to think I didn't care because I do. I don't like canceling shows ever, even if I can't sing. So this time around, we're planning it carefully, methodically. We're going to do the United States and we're going to do Europe and just stay out there and get this record going because it's been 2 or 3 years since we've toured, but that's been my fault, not the fact that the band not wanting to tour. So,
well, that's great to hear. And a point that you made there, where you said you had to go on and kind of explain your position, and it seems like there's an awful lot of that going on. Like I don't know if you saw it, but yesterday, Ricky Rocket from Poison had a big thing about why they're not going to do the 2025 tour, when the plan was never to do 2025, it was 2026. But he felt the need that because he, I guess, was getting beat up on social media that he
Mhm.
had to clarify. Do you find that sometimes that there's way too much of that where people have to kind of explain their positions on things to appease, people on social media or whatever?
Well, yeah, we do explain ourselves quite a bit sometimes, or somebody will, comment on a song or our choice of song or the album title or anything. These are but they're all fans. They're part of the solution, not the problem, in my opinion. But this one thing being canceled, there were some really nasty things being said, so
Right.
I really felt that that was something that needed to be addressed. And some people are better at it than others. Other people think they have the right to just call you an asshole, and that's going to, fly with me. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't do, can't go back and forth with that, because
Right.
if I say, well, you're an asshole, that begins the war of words, and everybody gets to see it and nobody wins. So
Well,
sorry about that. Um,
and now more than ever, you just got to have a thick skin. I mean, well, it sucks to say suck it up. I mean, that's literally what you need to have these days, right?
yeah, it does. Um, I try to stay away from Facebook as much as possible. If I have something to say, then I post something. I'll post photos. I'll post my daughter, who I'm very proud of, because she's also in the business.
Nice.
And I like promoting her because she's so busy doing what she's doing that she doesn't even care about promotion, because she thinks it's never going to end, which it might not, because when you're
Right.
in on Broadway, that circle is a little bit different. But I wanted my circle to see what Broadway is like, and maybe when they're in New York City, they'll go see her. So I use Facebook for a lot of different reasons. My wife sometimes will record a song, and I think it's great, which I think 99% of what she does is great. So I post it. But for me, I don't get on there and make speeches and try to engage with anyone, because I just, not that I don't have the time, I got plenty of time, but I just think it's better off not to do it.
Fair enough. Um, so House of Lords, I mean, fair to say they were considered really a super group in terms of players and in terms of,
Mhm.
when you guys came out. I mean, there was notoriety around you guys, and you're the new guy in this band of I guess we'll call them superstar players of the genre.
Mhm.
Things change, and band members change. You have a new band now. Who are give a shout out for my viewers that don't aren't aware of who you currently have in this lineup, who they are.
The current lineup is myself, Mark Mangold, Jimmy Bell, and Johan Kolberg. And nobody doesn't know Jimmy Bell by now. I mean, the guy is all over the place.
Yeah.
He's a self promoter on Facebook, and he makes sure he gets his image out there. And he's one of the best players I've ever played with. He's hands down. The story about Jimmy is pretty amazing. When we were doing the second record, Doug Aldrich, we didn't have Doug Aldrich at that point. It was Lanny Cordola on the first, and on the second, we started recording the second album without a guitar player, and people were sending us cassettes of themselves. Joe Satriani was one of them, and it was a couple of people in the band that wanted him. But I didn't realize that Jimmy Bell had told me years later I submitted a tape for that gig. Had I gotten that tape, he would have been in the band then. I never got to hear it. I don't know how it got passed up. There were a lot of people up for the gig, but Jimmy Bell is one of those players, one of the last great traditional rock and roll players. Lefty, I love lefty players. I mean, it's just something about the way it even looks. It's just great. So Jimmy has been with me from the day one of the first reincarnation. I say reincarnation because House of Lords of old was not going to happen again. So it was just me and whoever I would put together. That was Jimmy Bell, BJ Zampa, and Chris McCarville. Chris McCarville and BJ Zampa are now working with Dokken. I don't know after still touring, but the last couple of 3 or 4 years, they have been touring with them. So they've kept
BJ,
themselves busy.
I get a kick out of BJ. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I like to play my drums fairly level. Like, but with him, it's like that would come center bubble.
Could you say that again?
I said
lost.
with BJ, I'm friends with him on Facebook. I'm a drummer, and I like to have my drums fairly flat. But I mean, he could put a level on his drum kit that would come up center bubble every time. I've never seen it. It's a really cool look. One of the things I like that I've always felt that, and I'm not just saying this because I have you here, but I mean, I've always had a kinship to the band because I'm a massive Kiss fan, and really, if you take the genealogy of House of Lords from where they started with Greg all the way up, Kiss had a huge part in like from Angel to
Absolutely.
so do you still, obviously you wear that proud, you said it earlier in the interview, do you still have any kinship or anything with Gene or any of those guys, or is it kind of like, thanks for the opportunity and we're on to different things now?
Well, it's been a while since I've, and it would basically be either text or Facebook, but it's been a while since I spoke to Gene or texted with him. But his wife always, she's on my Facebook. We're friends on Facebook, and that's still there. But the friendships, they faded. Everyone kind of moved on and did their own thing. I don't speak with Greg pretty much at all.
Right.
Chuck Wright, I do. Ken Mary, I do. Lanny Cordola, I do. Doug Aldrich, I do. Did I just say I do 5 times? Okay, yeah. I think I married them all. But yes, I do. They're just, they're players that are still doing. They're still out there playing and doing the music. I don't know if Greg is. He might be, but as far as I know, nothing. I've seen nothing recorded or heard anything recorded.
And I had Ken Mary on my show a number of months ago, and off camera he spoke very highly of you. I'm not just saying that because you're here, so I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm going to hit you with 2 last questions. So before we started recording, I made the comment about your gold and platinum records in the back, and you said some of them were yours and some of them were your wives. And talk about that a little bit, because I think that's very cool that you've got all that hardware on display there.
Okay, yeah. The hardware behind me is Robin Beck's platinum from First Time, and then there was a gold from First Time, and then there was another platinum from Trouble or Nothing. On this side are 2 albums that and this is weird. One was for production. I produced a girl in Canada called Julie Mass. I don't know if you're familiar, because she was from Montreal.
Okay.
I spent like 3 months up there, and she was married to Corey Hart.
I know exactly who she is. Yep.
Singer. Okay, so that's the girl. And Mark Baker, who was my partner, songwriter for many years, we wrote Demons Down together, along with Bob Marlette, who is an incredible producer, writer, you name it, he does it. And so we wrote this great record, a song called this is one of my ballads on Demons Down, What's Forever For? And I never got to sing the song live. I mean, I got to sing it at some kind of convention for Polygram in West Palm Beach, Florida. Just me on vocal and a keyboard. That's the only time I got to sing it. And then, everything fell apart because of the music change. But that song had legs, and Julie Moss heard it, and she was already a platinum artist, and she wanted to do the song, and she also wanted us to produce it, help produce the vocal. So hence I go up there, and so by that time I was producing that vocal and other vocals that she did. So I got a production credit on it along with Mark Baker. and the song went number one immediately. I think like 4 times, so it was platinum. And there, it's a little, it's less when you sell records there to go platinum, but it still was an achievement. And that's what that one is, with Julie Maz's face on it.
Absolutely. It's
So
kind of like the Canadian to US dollar ratio, James.
yeah, I had no idea, and the thing is, you guys got great studios up there. I mean, I was
Yes.
in Montreal for 2 months, and I'm thinking, boy, you're spending a lot of money on this record, but I guess she had some hits prior to that. So, they were giving her the royal treatment as far as recording time, budgets, and everything. So, and I think it was worth it because she went number one with that song, and Mark and I made some good money. With royalties just kept coming in. I said, now this doesn't suck, because it's not like we have to go out there and do it. We wrote it, and somebody else is doing it.
Well, now, how many people in the music business currently can say, "Yeah, we made some good money,"
Yeah,
the way it is
yeah.
right now, right? Well, and speaking of that, I know you're busy, so we'll go here. We're going to get you to do a little business. Your video just swiped off, but hopefully you can still hear us.
I'm going to hold on. I'm going to find you again, because
Yeah,
I swiped off because people keep messaging.
I hear
And
you.
so when they message me, I swipe, and I shouldn't have done that. Hold
That's
on.
okay.
Give me a sec, and I'm gonna
Absolutely,
just
we
okay.
can do that. Well, here, I'll set up the question while you're looking to do that.
Okay.
And the question is basically, where can my viewers, my listeners, find out about this new album, about what you guys are doing, about when you're going out, all things House of Lords?
Well, the album comes out October 11th, and anything that you want to find out about House of Lords, touring information, where to buy the record. I mean, you can buy it anywhere. I mean, you can download it anywhere. As a matter of fact, between, I think it is the 5th and the 7th, Sirius XM is introducing, and we're very excited about it. They're going
Nice.
to introduce full tilt overdrive, just the one song, to the market, and that's something that they wanted to do.
That's
So,
fantastic. Um,
did you
I
lose
want
me
to thank you.
again?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
But there you are. I
Okay.
want to thank you for doing this, and I want to end by saying this. It's always cool for me because I mean, I grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is, you would probably know where we are if you're on the Eastern Seaboard, but I mean, we're Eastern Canada, and a little landlocked where I am, but we get the ocean. But it's always cool when I get to meet somebody that I grew up listening to, and they're a super nice person as opposed to a complete idiot, which you fear they might be. And so, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for being a cool person, and best of luck with this record, because what I heard sounds lights out, my friend.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate that, and hope we'll see you at one of the shows coming up soon.
Yes, sir. We're back. Rock Rage Radio after this.
All right.